yesterday was a tough day, and despite all of that, we've got to go to work and present Canadians with an alternative, a government that's ready to govern. And we do have the steady interim leadership of a very experienced parliamentarian in Candice Bergen. She's a former minister, and I think that her job is to be the caretaker and bring our party forward and move it over. This is not all bad news for us.
Well, what a week it's been. On Monday, Erin O'Toole posted a lengthy video talking about and a message describing the fatigue and fear of Canadians who are tired of the pandemic and fearful that life will not return to normal. By Wednesday night, O'Toole's life was the one that changed. He was voted out as federal Conservative leader by members of his caucus after just 17 months on the job.
And so last night, MP Candice Bergen was elected by her peers as interim leader. There she is. As interim leader, Bergen will now not be allowed to run for permanent leader when that race is conducted. A date to determine the party's next leader has not yet been determined. So what's next? Here to discuss is Stephen Taylor. Stephen was a senior political advisor to the former leader of the opposition and Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us tonight. So I know you've been talking about this a lot. First question for you. I mean, it has been quite the week. O'Toole out, Bergen in, and then the race really to come for a new leader. What is it going to take to unify this party?
Yeah, well, I sent a note to a number of my friends last night who were in both camps, those that ousted O'Toole and those that were fighting for O'Toole's leadership, that, once this is all over, we need to move on fast from this because Canadians are still hurting. Canadians are still coming out of this pandemic, and Conservatives need to unite, and Canadians expect them to provide an effective opposition to this very divisive government under Justin Trudeau.
And what is it, would you say, from what you're hearing from members, or at least from caucus, that is dividing it? Is it the battle between social conservatives and fiscal conservatives? Is it that there was, of course, there was concerns that Erin O'Toole was not the best person to continue to lead this party, and there needs to be a consensus as to who is?
I think this question was split on winnability. Those that believed Erin O'Toole could win the next election and those that didn't. I would point out that Senator Denise Batters comes from the progressive conservative tradition of our party, that legacy party, and she is by no means would identify as part of the social conservative caucus. And yet she was the one that kicked off a lot of this process. So no, I don't buy into that it's somehow some social conservative division versus some progressive faction within the party. I think it comes down to whether or not members of caucus and members of our party really believed that Erin O'Toole could actually carry the day in the next election. I mean, he faced Justin Trudeau in the last election and did not produce a better result than the previous outing under Andrew Scheer, who had actually increased the number of seats in Parliament for the Conservatives. So really, it was a wash for Erin O'Toole, and then he had to make the case that he was ready to deliver it over the goal line the next time, and it came down to it, and caucus didn't believe it.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, as Canada's interim leader of Canada's official opposition and Conservative caucus, what do you expect to see from Candice Bergen?
So Candice has been a long time party activist. I've known her for about 15 years. And, from the time she was a volunteer to the time she was a candidate, to the time she was first elected and then a minister of the Crown, Candice has had quite a career in Canadian politics. And I am very confident in her ability to take the Conservative Party through this interim period as it searches for a new leader.
Stephen, today we spoke to Melissa Lansman. And when we talk about who you're hearing about who is best to lead this party forward, there are a couple of familiar names. She's not new to the party. She's a rookie MP. I'm curious as to your opinion. Do you think she's got a shot?
Oh, Melissa Lansman. Yeah, well, Melissa is a rising star of our party. I would not be surprised to hear her name being pushed around among the top tier of potential candidates. I think people would be very excited by a Melissa Lansman candidacy. I'm hearing names, from former premiers to former parliamentarians that might be looking to get in. I'm hearing Patrick Brown is calling people in order to gauge their support and to see if he can lock up some organizing talent. I'm hearing that even, like names like Brad Wall, which is a long shot, former premier of Saskatchewan, and even Doug Ford, if he is successful in the next election, whether or not he wants to pivot to the federal context. I don't know if that would be a positive move for him. Being Premier of Ontario is a serious job, and it requires a lot of experience, and I think he's well suited there. But I know that there are people around him that are pushing that idea. So
and Lindsay, I should have pointed out, she did say on our show today, sort of stay tuned. And we did ask Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown several days ago about his interest. I've heard the same thing, that he's making calls and getting feedback. He didn't say no, but he did say that his focus is on, the city of Brampton. He had a line about that, but he didn't say no. So that's quite interesting. Let me give the next question here to Mark, my colleague.
Yeah, and Stephen, we kind of touched on this, but for the third time, I should say, in 5 years, the Conservative Party is really focused also on prepping to pick this permanent leader. We talked a little bit about this, but who can we expect to see in that race moving forward?
Who we expect to see in that race? Oh, well, like I said, people have been suggesting Melissa Lantsman. They've been suggesting Patrick Brown. Of course, Pierre Poilievre is a favorite among a lot of people online. His name has been pushed around Twitter quite a lot. He's had the most engagement on a number of tweets. I actually pointed out that in the absence of leadership, with the troubles with O'Toole fighting for his leadership in the last number of weeks, that vacuum has created a big opportunity for Pierre Poilievre to provide that opposition. And every time he does so online, he gets huge engagement. So if that's any indication, Pierre, if he chooses to run, he will be formidable as a contender.
I have many more questions, but that actually from our end is all the time we have. So we'll have you on again, Stephen. I know you continue to chat with people on Twitter about this, so I'll continue to follow what you have to say. So thank you for joining us tonight, Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen.
Okay, thank you.